Okay, so quick agenda today. So we'll first start with our lovely vendor, Enterprise. They're going to speak about the Enterprise National Car Rental Agreement or contract, and they'll follow up with any questions after. Um, After that, we'll go over buying from contracts, the signing policy, a review, and then just little things through policy, overall travel policy, reminders and updates. We'll have a slide about workday updates. And of course, we will go through questions and submitted questions, of course, and then we will end the meeting. But again, if you have any questions, feel free to put it into the Q&A. If they're very specific and lengthy, we might put that into the parking lot and come back with the follow-up email. But again, feel free to put any questions into the Q&A overall.
And if you see a question and you have the same question, feel free to upvote it as well, rather than having to type it all in again.
Okay. All right. I will stop sharing and we will have Caroline and Christelle take over.
All right. Hi, guys. Is that Sam, can you confirm that's sharing? And you
Yes,
can hear
it
me?
looks good.
Yes. Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you for having us on today. I'm Caroline Winky, and I'm the account manager of the UW agreement for National and Enterprise. And I'm local here in Seattle. You never know these days where people are with the virtual meetings, but local here. And I work with the UW travel team in many different departments within the university, just to really make sure that the travelers are set up and able to get where they need to go in the most efficient and cost-effective way possible. Also on our team today, we have Crystal. Crystal, if you want to say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Crystal is a, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I was like, unlike Caroline, I am unfortunately not local any longer. I'm on the East Coast, but always feel free to send me a message if you guys need help with anything.
Crystal is a great resource. She oversees the whole state of Washington agreement, which is what UW is a part of, and helps different departments set up their own unique accounts and can help with the in and outs of that. So, a great resource to have on our team here. So, the car rental program that we have set up for the university is set up with both our national and our enterprise brand under one account number. And so today, really what I want to highlight is the cost savings of the program, the traveler satisfaction piece, and then the booking process. So I'm going to run through some of the highlights, and there were some updates in the contract that was most recently done at the end of 2025. So we'll touch on those also. And then opportunities for cost savings with renting versus mileage reimbursement. That's another thing that we'll touch on. Our loyalty program, Emerald Club, and then the booking process. And then at the end, we're happy to open it up for any questions. So the UW program is part of the State of Washington account, which is one of the best ones out there, has great perks. So I'll highlight a few of those here. These are things that are, included that a standard retail rate or any other corporate account wouldn't even have access to and is unique to this program. So full coverage is included, which is nice because it's a walk-away policy where your travelers don't have to worry about if anything happens to the vehicle, or third-party liability also, that's included. We do rent as low as 18 years old. An update this year, though, is for anyone 18 to 20 years old. They do have their own unique account number that they need to use, so I included that on here. That's specifically for anyone 18 to 20 years old. because coverage isn't included for those renters. We rent up to a full-size sedan for them. So if you have anyone in your department that is in that age range, that's the account number there that you would want to use for them, that XC80077. The program is set up for business use only. There's not a leisure aspect of this one. The one-way fee is waived within Washington State. So if someone needs to pick up at SeaTac Airport and drop in Seattle, there's not a one-way fee, which is nice and good cost savings there. The account number does work nationwide, both at all of our locations, airport or our home city locations as well. And then, we'll touch on the renting versus mileage reimbursement. I have a slide for that, so we'll touch on that. The two brands here, we have our national brand and our enterprise brand. There is a loyalty program that works for both of them. That's our Emerald Club. And I'm not techie, but I made this QR code here that has the enrollment link to sign up for Emerald Club under the UW account. And so feel free to scan that. It also has the reservation links in there too for you under that. But the reason we encourage Emerald Club is because it really expedites the rental process. So it'll store the address, driver's license, phone number, so that doesn't have to be typed in every time. And then when people are renting at airports, we encourage them to rent with our national brand. That's our premier airport brand for business travelers. This allows travelers to bypass the counter. They don't have to stand in line. They can select a free upgrade. So you guys just pay the small car price and they can pick out their free upgrade. And so we actually timed it at the SeaTac location, and they can get in and out within 90 seconds from the time they get to the location and get out, because everything is loaded in their Emerald Club profile. So any of your frequent travelers, we really encourage enrollment in the Emerald Club and renting with national at airport locations. And then our enterprise brand is at airports also, but really it's the home city locations. So I know there's the one by the university there. We have them all over. We're almost like a Starbucks, right? One in every town there. And people can utilize the program there as well. And then you don't pay the airport taxes and fees too, which is a perk. Now I'll run through the process of the Emerald Club at airport locations with our national brand. So anyone traveling outbound especially comes into play with, conferences or meetings that they might be attending. So with their Emerald Club, they would reserve with our national brand and just pay for a mid-sized car. That's the cheapest car price. When they get there, they're able to bypass the counter, and then they're able to pick any car. And so this is what it will look like when they get to the national lot. The Emerald aisle here has cars parked, keys are in it, and so they can go up and maybe there's a Toyota Camry, which is actually a full-size car, but they're just paying the small car price. They're getting that for free. They can hop in and then they can show their driver's license to confirm it's them, but they don't have to sign. Everything's loaded in their Emerald Club profile there. And so that's where the 90-second transaction time can come in, depending on how quick they are at deciding which free upgrade that they want. And then as people rent more, they can get higher status. And so the executive section, same process, keys are in the car. They can pick whichever car they want. It's just a nicer selection of free upgrades. So oftentimes on here, you'll see full size, premium size, some small SUVs on there as well, but same process. And then, let me go back. If someone needs specifically a minivan or an SUV for four-wheel drive, they'll want to reserve that specifically to be guaranteed that. But same process, they would go to that section of the lot and they can have their pick of whatever minivans are on there. Keys are in it and they drive out. So very fast and expedited process for the business travelers that are on the road there a lot and looking to get in and out. There's 3 different levels of the membership. So the more they rent, the higher status. So everyone starts out at the Emerald Club. Then we have executive and executive elite. So the more you rent, the nicer selection of free upgrades, and you earn free rental days too as a perk with that program. Okay, so the renting versus mileage reimbursement, the IRS rate, gosh, I think it just went up to 72 cents to reimburse per mile. So what we found is that adds up really quickly, and oftentimes it's more cost effective to rent a car under the program, especially your guys's, where you have the low rates and the coverage included in it. Can save a lot of money to rent a car versus doing the mileage reimbursement. So typically if it's over 125 miles is where you'll see cost savings to rent a car. This QR code, another QR code that I made here, goes to our mileage calculator on our website, where you can plug in how many miles someone's driving, how many days their trip is, and you can see a comparison of what the cost of reimbursement is versus the cost of the rental car. The nice thing too, as I mentioned, with the coverage being included, a lot of people, if they were to drive their own car, then they're responsible for, the insurance and deductible of their own car. If something happens, then they have to take it to the shop. Where with a rental car, the coverage is included. If something were to happen, you just swap out to a new one or you return it, and you don't have to think twice about it. So it's a nice perk. And people typically, once they know that this is an option, they'd much rather do that than driving their own car and putting the wear and tear on there. And then cost savings for the university of having a less expensive option than reimbursing at that 72 cents a mile. So there's that QR code if you guys want to scan that and play around with that calculator and see what opportunities you guys have for cost savings with that. Okay, so I talked about our national brand at the airport. And then the enterprise brand, as I mentioned, we have home city locations all over where you don't have to pay airport taxes and fees. And then they can really, specialize in that mileage reimbursement alternative. So they can pick up from the university or someone's home. They have a free pickup service there. And then we also have, this is new this year that we just included in the program, is our enterprise truck rental, specifically for those heavier duty cargo vans, box trucks, pickup trucks that have tow capabilities. So if ever needs come up with that, this is something that we just added to the program. And we have, I think it's 7 locations in the state of Washington, but also nationwide too. We have locations and up in Canada that people can utilize with the corporate account too. So those are kind of more of those unique heavier duty needs if those come up, where before maybe you used a U-Haul or a Penske, now it can be used under the state program. All right, so how to take advantage of the program and the booking process here we'll touch on. So this account number is the main account number for the university. And then we have the customized booking link, and that is included on the transportation page on your UW site. It's also with the QR code that I had showed with the Emerald Club enrollment. You'll have access to those links as well. People can book enterprise.com or nationalcar.com as long as they use that account number, the 45WA033, or if your department has a specific number, making sure that's being utilized. And then your travel management companies direct through their sites, or a lot of people like our National Car app too. Again, just making sure that that account number is being referenced there. All right, so that is the brief overview that I have on the program, the cost savings of it, making sure your travelers have the best experience using it, and how to utilize the program. So any questions
We don't see any questions for your team, actually. You've answered everything. I think it's more policy for us. Um, but other than that, um, I'll give everyone maybe 10 more seconds if they want to type in a question. Again, Cindy linked the information regarding the Enterprise National Contract in the chat, so feel free to click on that and then look into the contract. And it's two options to book, either through Enterprise and National. Oh, and then, okay, Lane, I guess we can also confirm this live. A question from Lane is, can you still rent the Enterprise cars in US territories like Guam and the US Virgin Islands?
Under the state of Washington account specifically, I don't think so.
You
I
can.
Oh, you can. Okay, thank you,
Mhm.
Crystal. Yes.
Prior to the changes that were made, that was not available. But they extended it out for Guam. Beforehand, it was I think just Puerto Rico.
Okay. I don't see any other questions.
There are no costs associated with signing up for the Emerald Club. So
Nope, it's
sign away.
complimentary. Yes, complimentary as part of the corporate account. So definitely a win-win there for travelers.
All right. Well, again,
Thank you guys. Yes,
thank
thank you for
you,
the
Carol.
partnership. Yes, we appreciate it. And yeah, if any questions come up, we're happy to help.
Sounds good. Oh, Eileen, you had a question? Oh, nope. Okay. Never.
Okay.
False hand. All right. Thank you, Caroline and Crystal.
Okay, thank
I hope
you.
you guys are
Take
good.
care.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Let me reshare the slide. There you go. And then everyone should be able to see all the typed answers in the Q&A. And then Kristen, do you mean if, I believe you're asking about Enterprise, if their contract is given to CTP? They should. All of our agencies, including CBT, should have the Enterprise National Contract loaded into the booking tool. And then again, please put your questions into the Q&A because if there's a lot of comments, they might get lost. But Johnny, he asks, how does this Enterprise service compare to the UCAR service? So UCAR is going to be through, obviously, the university. It'll be paid through a budget versus the traveler upfronting their own costs and asking for reimbursement. So that'll be the difference between the two. Obviously, the cars will be different as well. For the UCAR, there is restrictions on distance and more. We just recommend checking the Fleet Services website on that.
Generally more designed for more local travel here in Seattle versus the Enterprise can be used anywhere.
Perfect. Okay, and then Ruth, I see a question. Are the typed answers going to show in the transcript we receive? The Q&A usually doesn't come out with the ending of this meeting, but for the follow-up, we will include the full Q&A with all questions answered. All right, so there was a plan to have a representative from contracts and sourcing come. to talk about the contract or the signing policy overall. They aren't able to come, but if you have any questions about that, feel free to put in the Q&A or email us at travel. We'll have them answer those. But overall, what we have wanted to communicate to campus is that departments should not sign for any contracts or agreements. There may be some exceptions. We recommend going to the Procurement Services website. We'll include a link here for the buying from contracts page. To get that signed, it should always be through Contracts and Sourcing, and they also somewhat recently have a new procurement contract manager support request form. So in that form, you can pick what type of, if it's a contract or agreement or any other questions, and that will be answered by the Contracts and Sourcing team. But again, please do not, especially for travel, do not sign any contracts or agreements, even if it's just for your unit or department. If it's a hotel block, even, it still needs to go through procurement contract, the procurement contract manager support request form. It has to be signed off by Contracts and Sourcing. And then Lane, I see a question. What about if you're using a CTA for an approved hotel confirmation contract? I believe that should still be signed off by them. But again, I can bring that to Contracts and Sourcing. They didn't mention any other things regarding the CTA, so we will get back to you on that. Julie asks, how do you know if a company, in case a hotel, is diverse? It is a question on the form. We use ProCard for catering. Travelers pay fridging themselves. So, okay. So those questions, we will definitely bring it to Contracts and Sourcing. And again, that will be included in the follow-up with the huge Q&A with all those typed answers. Okay. Okay, so we'll start on some policy and procedure reminders and some new procedures as well.
Yeah, so something that has come up fairly frequently is what happens if one of our travelers pays for an expense on behalf of another traveler. Many of us are more familiar with if we pay for meals for someone else. But if, for example, you're paying for one big Airbnb for a group of people, the person that actually paid for the lodging or the rental car, whatever it is the person that gets reimbursed. And what we just need is some context, giving the names of the other travelers that are included and their relation to the UW business, just letting them know that they were also there for a conference or a training, something like that. So just let us know who all is included under that charge. And another thing that comes up occasionally is package deal bookings, like through third-party booking sites. In general, we do not recommend them as a way to book your travel because we may run into issues with itemization, which then makes the charge potentially taxable for your traveler, and no one wants that to happen. But if for some reason someone does book a package deal and we're unable to get an itemized receipt that parses out the different charges for the different, either like your airfare and your hotel, and shows those separate taxes, we do have a procedure to go through that. Please go ahead and email our travel email with that employee's name, their ID number, and then whatever associated expense report is attached to that. And then let us know what kind of package deal it was and the amount for that. And then we will respond to you, and then you can include that response from us in that ER as evidence that you have let us know that this is happening. And then we will go ahead and take care of things on the back end to get that sorted out. And another thing that has come up is talking about per diem in general, particularly for meals. We think of it as a individual allowance, not only for the entire day, but also for that individual meal amount. So, for example, if the traveler is only eligible for breakfast that day, they can only be reimbursed for up to whatever the allowed breakfast per diem is for that day. So we're not only looking at overall for that amount for that day that is permitted for that location, but also the individual amount for that meal. So particularly if you are submitting any miscellaneous payment requests, definitely make sure that you are within the allowable amount for each individual meal for that location.
And then real quick, again, if you have a package deal with a non-employee, you would just have to choose a different spend category, which is the taxable non-employee travel 1099 spend category.
Yes, thank you, Sam.
Okay, so more reminders. So travel agencies, again, we have them based on last year. Travel agencies, they bring about 8% of our travel spend. We do have 3 contracted agencies: Key Travel, Tangerine, Collegiate Travel Planners, also previously known as CTM. With these travel agencies, again, there's a lot of cost savings. They have all of our contracts and agreements on their booking tool, and they also have additional discounts with other vendors that travel agency has. So if they have extra discounts with more car vendors or airfare or lodging, that'll be included in the booking tool with those 3 agencies. And again, a really big thing is duty of care. They manage unused tickets and they have on-call support. With the travel agencies, it's highly encouraged to use the CTA over personal funds. Again, that'll save a lot of additional work in submitting reimbursements. Of course, you'll have to submit an ER regardless because it's either a reimbursement or verification, but we don't have to put that additional burden on the traveler for reimbursement. And then one big thing we want to mention, just with what's going on right now in the world, just some notes about domestic and international travel assistance. Of course, internationally, it's been mentioned many times. You've seen the global travel team, Ben, come up here and present. Feel free to click on the link for emergency resources, insurance information when traveling internationally. Again, everyone who's traveling internationally is to register their travel. We don't check it. Again, it is going to be a department responsibility. Domestic wise, again, if there is any assistance needed, please make sure travelers have a department contact. They also have insurance on file. If it's related to any field work, they can contact the Environmental Health and Safety Department. And if they need financial assistance, there is emergency aid. Okay. And then moving on.
All right. Since we have partnerships with airlines like Alaska, we have a lot of our travelers that are reaching status with them more quickly thanks to some promotions that we have with them. So just as a reminder that if you are upgrading at all with any sort of airfare, If it is complimentary due to, for example, the traveler's status with an airline, please make a note on that reimbursement for context. And you can just say that this reimbursement was complimentary due to traveler's status with the airline. If you do want to include additional documentation, you're welcome to, whether that is maybe an email that they received directly from the airline saying, hey, we have upgraded you for free on this flight, or if it is a copy of their information from the airline saying what their status is and what that gives them, you're more than welcome to include that, but just do put a note on there so we don't have to send it back just to make sure. And then if there are any medical reasons whatsoever for any sort of upgrade, we do request that you obtain a prior approval from the DSO office. They are the ones that are equipped to review those requests and all of that information to make sure that we are in compliance with all ADA requirements. And when you do submit your reimbursement request for that, you can just say that paperwork for this upgrade is on file with the DSO. Please do not include any sort of sensitive medical information on those upgrade forms, since, as a reminder, all of this does eventually become public information. So we want to protect our travelers' protected health information. And then for those of our travelers that are traveling long distances, we do have that 14-hour rule that does allow for upgrades to business class if you are not on federal funding. And that 14-hour rule includes that flight time that is included on your itinerary. So whatever the exact departure time is on your itinerary, and then is going to include any layovers between stops, as long as that layover is less than 24 hours. So if, for example, someone is traveling on federal funds that do not allow an upgrade, they do allow for a 24-hour stopover to give the traveler a break. So that is an option if needed. And then talking about our class of service fields that are available when you are filling out your reimbursements in Workday. We do consider any time that a seat fee, even if it is complimentary from the airline, for example, due to airline status, we do consider that premium economy because it is over and above that standard coach fare. So please do select the premium economy class, or if there is a charge associated with that seat fee, to include it in a separate seat fee expense item. So even, again, if it was complimentary, we do want to put that premium economy class. Something that comes up fairly frequently is our Alaska travelers getting for example, a Maine preferred seat for free due to their status. That is, again, considered premium economy. So go ahead and just put context in your reimbursement request saying that that was free, and you are all set and won't need any other kind of additional documentation for that.
Okay. Oh, yeah. The reason why it's me appearing on the screen and you hear Cindy's voice is, again, the tech issues we mentioned earlier.
Sorry.
So, yeah, it happens when we're in any meeting room. We'll promise to figure it out next time. Okay. I believe the next slide is the new stuff-ish.
Yeah.
Okay, before we get to that, let's answer a few questions. We'll look in the Q&A. I know some people are putting into the chat, but please put it into the Q&A. I see James is already asking about the future slides. We'll get to that question in a moment. Valerie, you ask, per diem department differ from UW policy? How do we know it is an official department policy? When one is since you're being reimbursed through the university, it has to follow UW travel policy. Again, we grab those policies from either state or federal guidelines. If you want to be more specific on or clarifying what do you mean by official department policy, if it's a looser policy and there's more per diem allowance based on maybe the funding per se, it would still have to follow the UW travel policy, which is technically federal per diem. But feel free to clarify your question. And then Elaine, I see a question about direct travel. You might have direct travel through a department, unit, or school level. For our office, we only have those, again, those 3 travel agencies, Key, Tangerine, and CTP. I believe athletics also works with their own, which is, I believe, Anthony Travel. Bethany, you're asking, when renting a car, our travelers are still having to pay out of pocket at the counter, although it is booked through CTP. Is there a reason for this? So car rentals should always be paid by the traveler and then reimbursed due to maybe additional add-ons later when they check in, or if there are, again, either when they check in or they check out, there might be additional fees as well. We recommend that travelers pay for it and ask for reimbursement versus departments using their CTA to just pay it off immediately or prepay, again, because it's a compliance risk.
So it will give them access to that if we have a contracted rate with them, which is kind of why we would want to book directly with those travel agencies. But yes, the traveler would need to pay out of pocket first.
Okay. Is there, I see a question by Haven, is there a fee for using the CTA? There shouldn't be a fee using the CTA. If there's a vendor giving a fee for certain reasons, let us know and we can speak to the ProCard office about it.
But as a reminder, even though it is a travel card, travel services, we do not run that program. So we don't have all of kind of the ins and outs. So you'd want to talk generally directly to card services, but we can always funnel those questions to them as well. Let's see, Ashraf, you said that do the travel management companies have UW's enterprise rental car contract loaded? Yes, we those contracted travel management companies that we have contracted with the UW do have those contract rates, so you don't have to worry about specifically having to book directly with enterprise, although you are welcome to. It's just a little easier to go directly with those travel management companies because they have everything loaded there for you and take care of it.
Okay, from Nikki, she asked, meal per diem, in your example, the traveler is eligible only for breakfast. I have a perception that UW is not allowed to limit the per diem, kindly advise. So we, as a university, don't limit the per diem in the sense we make the per diem limits. That is all dependent on the federal per diem. UW follows the state agency, which is the state of Washington, and then the state of Washington has decided to follow federal per diem. So again, the limitations are not made by us. We are just following the breakdown from state, but the per diem from the federal government.
And those per diem rates are also based on when you enter and exit travel status. as well. So that is where that can get potentially limited. So they're not eligible for that full, for example, in Seattle, $92.
We'll answer one more question and then go to the next slide. And then Lauren, can you please explain why proof of payment is required for an itinerary that has a receipt on it? Airlines do not issue receipts unless a traveler has paid for it. Such receipts used to be accepted for reimbursements. We require proof of payment for not just airfare, for a selected number of expenses, especially the itemized ones, due to the fact that a lot of these vendors also have a rewards program. Again, we just want to make sure that there is a clear evidence that it was paid by the traveler. People have split payments, whether it's 50% on their card and maybe the rest was paid by a gift card, or if there was a credit they received from maybe a delayed flight as a gift for saying sorry for that delay. A lot of things can be mixed when it comes to proof of payment, especially for airfare. But again, any type of expense, most of the time, especially airfare, lodging, and car rental, there might be a credit or some sort of gift card use or miles, again, free miles from a mileage program. So we want to make sure that proof of payment is there. Okay. We'll continue on with the questions after. We'll move on to the next slide. So we mentioned about in a previous, well, procurement did in a newsflash about live presentations. There was a Washington State sales update. We're just going to highlight over live presentations, specifically live presentations that happen inside of Washington State. So conferences, meetings, lectures, the list goes on and on. You can definitely head to the website. It has the bill that's naming every example possible to see what it includes. But again, live presentations that take place in Washington State and those conference fees, abstract fees, registration fees specifically are considered taxable sales. So if the live presentation or the conference is in person, it is going to be taxed based on the sales tax location of the presentation. So if someone has a conference in Seattle, it's Seattle sales tax. If it's a virtual if someone virtually attends a live presentation here in Washington, it's going to be based on the attendee's location. If there's no information on that, it'll be based on the billing address used. And then for more notes, the procedure, we'll do a little demo after. For expense reports, basically, this will be the first time use tax will be applicable. So if you are doing an expense report under business travel, you want to enable tax when you're creating that expense report. And for specifically just these registration, conference fees, abstract fees for Washington State live presentations, you can select the registration/conference fee Washington State expense item and then put in the location, and it'll calculate the sales tax. For the non-travel side, so if you do a non-travel ER, you can just select the training and conference fees, and again, enable tax should already be there, and you will do the same thing. So again, there are two different expense items, but again, because there's two different business purposes. For miscellaneous payments overall, they will have to be taken out of the non-employee travel spend category and put onto training and conference fees spend category. So again, the new expense item we just mentioned for business travel is connected to this training and conference fees spend category for taxable sales. Again, this is not 1099 reportable, it is just taxable sales. And then if one is using the training and conference fees and reimbursing it as a non-travel miscellaneous payment and it's out of state, you can just comment on there in the memo field or in the comment field of that MP saying it's out of state or foreign. And then let's change screen real quick. And I'll again, I think you guys are mostly familiar with this, but just in case. Let me get Workday open.
It's just getting it set up. So 1 second, everyone.
Okay, so perfect. Okay, so again, you can choose business travel. I'll put my tag real quick. Of course, that new expense item, excuse me, will be under conference and meeting, and it'll be right here for you guys to use. So this is where you'll put the location, and then based on how much you input as the amount, it'll calculate here. So simple as that. You will have to have on that initial creation page the enable tax button. Again, this is just to Washington State live presentations. If it's out of state or foreign, do not worry about those conference and abstract or registration fees. If there is airfare to Washington State or lodging or any of those other non-conference fees, those are not applicable to this policy or policy change and procedure. Okay, so for the enable tax button, if you don't select it initially, okay, let me restart so you guys can see where it is. The enable tax checkbox will actually be under the work tags. So if you have a conference fee, abstract fee, registration fee, or a live presentation in Washington State, and that person or traveler is being reimbursed, please check this box. And again, it'll automatically show on all expense items in the expense report with this tax area. Put in the amount, put in the $300 amount. I'll put it in Seattle. And then it will calculate the tax amount. If you were putting, like, let's say this conference is in Seattle, and again, registration will have this, and you'll have airfare, maybe lodging, or meals paid for others, or car service. any of those expense items, you do not need to fill this out. Leave it alone. It's just for these registration and conference fees expense item. Okay, and then let me scroll through some questions real fast. Let me go up. Let me see how far. Oh,
One from
like Alicia.
Alicia, yeah. For Washington State tax changes regarding live presentations, how does this affect membership charges? Is what I'm guessing. I do not believe it would impact any fees for membership, for example, with an association. But if there are fees for conference registration with an association, for example, that portion would be taxed. Sometimes people, I think, pay for them at the same time. So we'd need to parse those two out. But again, membership charges are not taxed.
Yes. We'll definitely review this with the tax office
Yes.
and send that out.
Yeah.
Okay. We have a student, I see Alan's question. We have a student employee who's based in DC, registered for a conference in Spain. Do they need to apply the Washington State use tax in this case? No. So as long as that conference or live presentation doesn't take place in Washington State, you do not need to worry about anything I just showed you. You can just continue on without needing to enable the sales tax. And again, anything outside of Washington State. So if it's foreign, if it's in California, you do not need to worry about that. Let's go down one more.
Sort of related to that from Heather, what if we host a conference out of state? Are all registration fees taxable since the organizer is based in Washington? No, because the conference itself is not actually occurring within Washington. That would not be taxed. So with regards to, there are a couple of questions about if you click on that enable tax button and you have a combination of taxable and non-taxable items on that expense report, for example, it is not, to my understanding, going to apply to everything on that ER. It will only apply to the ones where you enter that specific tax information over on that right-hand side that says the specific tax code and the tax amount. Just clicking on that button is what activates that portion of Workday to include that itemization information. So you do not need to worry about submitting separate ERs for things that include tax and things that do not. Just make sure that for those registration fees, you are including that tax code information, and you can just ignore it on anything that it is not applicable to.
And then Jason, we do see your question. We spoke with accounts payable, but we can confirm again if we need to separate those out.
Yeah. As far as we know.
Yeah, we just did a demo with them and they were able to do it in one, but again, we will confirm with a follow-up. And then, let's see, Naomi asked, is registration or attendance at conferences solely taxable when it is non-business purposes, or are business travel conferences taxed? Again, this is all dependent on location.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be reimbursing any sort of registration fees for something that is not UW business related. So I'm not sure when that would apply, but again, it's only if it is for registration for attendance for a conference that is in Washington State. Let's see. Michaela, saying that you are having some issues with the tax item. Okay, we will check in with
AP.
AP, and we did chat with someone yesterday, and they showed that it shouldn't be an issue. So if you have a specific ER example where you're having issues with this, if you could send it to us in a ticket, that would be helpful for an example. But we will double check as well.
Okay, we will do a quick, we'll come back to the rest of the questions. We'll do one more demo, I guess, since we're already still sharing Workday. This is more of in progress. It's a later slide after the Workday updates, I mean, before the Workday updates, but we are working on quick tips. So you kind of already see it on here. Again, let me go to the initial creation page. It only is showing up though right now for one of the two create expense report tasks. So if you're doing a self creation or an expense report for yourself, you'll see these quick tips. But if you're doing it on behalf or for a worker, you won't see it yet. But you can see here, selected fields have a little question mark, and it gives, again, a quick tip just to help figure out what to input into that field. Things get a little confusing. Again, for example, company, it says here business travel and non-travel, please choose UW 1861. CTA and field advance, please choose based on your intercompany that matches your work tags. So that is just something new to give. If you guys have any recommendations of other fields you want to put a quick tip on, this is for any business purpose. So this is the whole expense report module. We will see if we can request those. We did request some and they were not able to do it, but feel free to let us know if you want a specific field with an additional explanation. Let's show a few more. So again, expense item has it, memo field. We have the arrival and departure dates since we get those confused sometimes. So again, in general, arrival date is start date and departure date is end date. That is a limitation of Workday. They are not unable to fix and say start date or end date. So please, yeah, we ask them all the time and it's just a field that's stuck. For a class of service, this comes up often, at least the ones that for the ERs that come to us. We know it's confusing with if you click all and it shows a mix of airfare, train, and car rental all in one list. Again, airfare is just the ones that say classes at the end of it. So business, economy, first, premium economy. Car rental will be the other, and then the sedan, SUV, truck, van. So that is there for you guys. Don't believe we might have had one for lodging. Don't think there's any more lodging. But if you see a quick tip, or if you want a quick tip on a field, let us know. We could try to test that out with IT. Okay. Let me go back to the presentation. Oh, let me actually fix it. There we go. Okay. So we already showed you the quick tips, so we'll skip that slide, but some Workday updates. Do you want to mention it?
Sure. So still in progress is that 60-day policy for submitting reimbursements. We still don't have an exact date for you all. We are hoping to have one soon, and as soon as we hear, you will all be the first to hear. We have told the powers that be that we need to make sure that we give our departments and travelers as much notice ahead of time as possible. So we will let you know as soon as we can. And then a couple things that are on our roadmap as requests for updates in Workday. So requests for non-employees, such as candidates coming in for jobs or visitors or students. We have asked for them to be added to an expense report for a non-worker module rather than having to submit that miscellaneous payment request. So that is on our roadmap. We do not have a date as far as when that might be available, but we'll keep you updated. And then something that is also in progress, we do have that spend authorization module that is available, and we are looking into making that more useful for the pre-trip approval process. That departments can use that as a way to get their travel approved rather than any internal department options they may have. So that we have some kind of kinks that we're working out on that, but that is in progress and coming. Again, no date for that, but it is in the works.
Okay. Yes, we're really sorry we don't have any bigger updates for that, but again, we are working with IT and they have acknowledged our enhancement requests. So it is getting there, and the 60-day policy, of course. But we're trying hardest to make sure, we get that out there as soon as possible. And if there's any information, we will let you guys know through the mailing list. And most likely we'll have an additional presentation or an earlier travel information meeting if necessary.
If your departments would like to start implementing an internal policy for the 60-day requirement, just to kind of get people used to that process, that may be a great way to kind of ease into that requirement. So feel free to do that. We do have some departments that have kind of a 60 and even more strict requirement so that it has been implemented by people as well. So go ahead and give that a try if that will help ease some of the concern on your end.
Okay. So I know feedback last time was like, we need more time for questions, and you've answered a lot more this time. So hope that makes up for it. We have quite some time left. We will continue answering as much questions. We possibly might end the meeting early, maybe around 11:20, 11:25. And then again, we will get back to you guys with the rest of the parking lot questions as well as the video and any other questions for other vendors or other departments within finance. Okay. Before I go on to the Q&A, we did have some submitted questions. I'm just going to pull that up real quick. Okay. It's in a ticket, so I'm just going to verbally answer. All right. Okay, so first submitted question is about proof of payment or proof of statement. So what are we looking for when a bank statement is provided? So we want to make sure that their name is on that bank statement, as well as the amount matching. You can definitely have that last 4 digits on there. We can't really confirm with the receipt that's missing the proof of payment with the 4 digits, but again, that's more, you all are more than free to have that there. Everything else can be redacted. If the vendor's name is there and it matches the expense, a hotel name, airfare, third party like Expedia or a travel agency, that is fine as well. And then a follow-up question to that is, says, if they have a receipt, but it just says paid, does it need to say by credit card, or will the word paid be okay as proof of payment? This kind of relates to an earlier question. If it says paid by credit card, that is okay. That is exactly what we need. We don't actually need always the Visa ending in 0000. If it just says credit card, that is perfect. But if it does have the card type with the last 4 digits, that's fine too. Again, for just the word paid, it will depend on that expense. If it's like a conference registration, that is fine. Paid is fine. For airfare and lodging and anyone going through a third party, or that vendor has a rewards program, it will need that proof of payment with either paid by credit card or paid by so-and-so card ending in 0000. And then next question is, for hotels, if it says deposit transferred at check-in and nothing else, is this a sufficient proof of payment? Yes, so it's on the folio and it says deposit with a number. What we have seen, we haven't seen anyone use credits to pay for a deposit. So right now we see this as low risk and that they did pay with their credit card. So we don't need any additional proof of payment for the word deposit with an amount on someone's folio. But the rest of the charges on that folio, room rate, taxes, it should still have the proof of payment at the bottom for those charges that are given at the end of one stay. Okay. Next is Atmos and tier status, like a reoccurring question. Is all that is required is a quote from the guest saying they didn't pay for the upgrade/seat. When free upgrades are provided, what documentation is required? If it is a free upgrade because of their rewards program status for airfare, especially, we just ask that the department confirms with the traveler, and they can just write that as a comment that they received a free seat upgrade or they received a free business upgrade due to their Atmos reward status or their United mileage plan status. So if they just got, well, another option too is that they are not, they don't have an Atmos or a reward status, reward program status. If they just receive a upgrade in general, what we've seen is that those vendors do contact, especially airfare, will notify the traveler like, hey, we gave you a free upgrade. If you do have that email, please do attach it for context. If you don't have that email, please feel free to reach out to us and we can figure out some sort of supplemental documentation to attach for that free upgrade. And then next question is, which class of airfare or car rental should we be choosing? The option being charged or the option given. Example, sedan charged, but SUV was only option, so free upgrade was provided. So when you're selecting, again, airfare or car rental, for airfare, it is the highest fare flown. They might not be reimbursed or for that business class, and they actually did a comparison for economy, but because they actually flew business class, please choose that. For car rental, it'll be what they drove. And if what they drove is a upgrade like an SUV, a truck, a van, etc., but they were charged a sedan, please put that into the memo field. Just say sedan was charged. What we really look for, if you happen to miss it, is that the receipt says that. If the receipt doesn't say that, and the memo field has no context, we will just ask for an explanation. And then next question is, could you please provide more guidance on airfare comparisons, specifically when should we use round trip versus one way? We always recommend to use round trip, especially if they're being reimbursed a round trip flight. If somehow we receive, because we check all personal time expense reports, if the actual was a round trip and you received or attached a two one-ways, then that's fine. And it works out and it matches everything and it's within policy. It is good to go. We're not going to send it back to say, hey, go back to the Alaska website and make a round trip. So no worries about that. But again, if they are being reimbursed a round trip, please use a round trip comparison. If they're being reimbursed a one-way and that one-way is the leg with personal time, then yes, you'll still need a one-way comparison. If that one-way isn't part of the personal time or doesn't include personal time, you don't need to put a comparison. And you can either write that out in a comment or in the memo field. And then last submitted question. Oh, we already mentioned it. Again, just about the 60-day and where we are. And again, that's very much acknowledged by IT and they are working on it, but we haven't had any official dates or testing coming out just yet. Okay. Let's do a few more questions. Okay. I see a back and forth between chat and the Q&A about CTP and the response time. We've also received some tickets. We will reach out to their account manager to see what is going on. It is on the responsibility of the travel agency for their response time. So we apologize on behalf of them if they're responding slower than usual. The transition did happen a few months ago, and it was communicated during the start of the transition. There was a little bit of rough patches, but again, we'll reach out to them to see if there's any other reasons for the delayed response. Okay, let me go over. Okay. And then Ashraf, I see your question. CTP isn't contracted with the UW or no longer. Who helps departments transition with the UW contracted travel management company? And is there any guidance on how to evaluate which vendor has the best performance? And what happens if we implement one and it is later no longer a UW preferred vendor? Again, with CBT, we're not officially contracted with them anymore, but we are on an evergreen clause. So as long as both sides upkeep the same terms, we will continue the contract as is technically. It's just not signed officially because all renewals have ran out. If there is a future agency you guys are interested in, feel free to let us know. We will have to work with contracts and sourcing. I just want to let you guys know, since we have so many, we are not currently looking for new travel agencies. If that does come up, we will let everyone know in the future. But right now, it is fine to choose any travel agency the department prefers in general. There's no restriction. But again, CPT should be working as normal because we are on an evergreen clause. But if there's any issues, again, feel free to let us know. We can contact their team. Okay, and then there's a question from Lane. What is the website you were referring to? Some people have an Alaska mileage card members for a decade and just want to know how to link to UW.
Yeah, I can go into that.
Okay.
So some of that has to do with new signups for Alaska, and that being a way to kind of fast track their status. They can sign up if they have already had, for example, their mileage account with Alaska for the last 10 years. That's fine. As far as getting access to kind of those state fairs and contracted fairs, we would need to go, I think, directly through the travel agencies to get access to those. But I can pop in a link here in just a second, Lane.
Yes, and then also for the state contract, there's also Atmos for Business. That will require a department sign up first, and then they can add individual travelers. But if you're talking about the mileage, like credit card, I believe we cannot connect that to UW. That's separated, but feel free to further explain, Lane, if I'm getting or if I'm misunderstanding. Okay. And then Mary, you're asking, is a more detailed list of guidelines for this taxable spend category and how to enter into workday explanation on your website. So what was on the slide is on the website. The how to input it, we do link to the expense reports job aid. And then for miscellaneous payments, you just select that spend category. So there's less steps for miscellaneous payments. AERs it's a little bit of a different story. But just specifically how to do enable tax and use tax is via the same process that's listed on the job aid. But again, all that information is on the website under the conference expenses page.
Tanya asked if a traveler is planning to add a personal time to an itinerary that requires airfare, are they required to provide a flight comparison on Alaska? We do not require that you specifically use Alaska for your flight comparison. You're welcome to use whatever carrier would be traveling that route and is permitted. There may be kind of specific requirements. Again, if you are traveling internationally on a federal grant, for example, that Fly America Act requirement, but generally we're not going to require that you specifically use a very specific airline for that comparison flight for any personal travel.
Okay. Then a few other questions. We'll do maybe 2 more questions and then we will call it for the end of this meeting. But there are some general questions about what is the 60-day policy we're mentioning. We introduced that at the last November information meeting. That is basically saying reimbursements must be submitted within 60 days of the travel end date. If they are submitted after that, they are going to be taxed. There are exceptions to the 60-day requirement. you can see those on the November travel information meeting slides. Feel free to reach out to us. We do have a written policy drafted, but again, once we get more information and actually have that in testing for even us to look at, we'll let everyone know via all the communication plans possible.
And we can send out that actual 60-day policy directly with our follow-up email from this meeting, so you can take a look at that as well.
Okay. Okay. And then Ellen, yes, there's CTP, CTP, which is Collegiate Travel Planners, and then there's CBT, Christofferson Business Travel. They just have the C's everywhere for initials.
And you are welcome to use either.
Yeah. Okay.
Johnny asked, is there a website for comparison airfare? No, you could just go either directly to like Alaska, for example, and input those dates in Alaska, or if you're using booking.com or Kayak, for example, or Google, that shows those dates of travel in the fare class for those comparison dates, that's fine. You can just send us a screenshot, but we do not have a website where you can kind of input that information directly.
Okay. And then I see some people already testing the Enable Tax. Yes, you guys are right. It is when you Workday does calculate the tax upfront incorrectly. And I know that's a bit controversial, but on the back end, there's a report that AP pulls and fixes all of that. So
do not worry if that number is not
Right.
exactly correct.
but yes,
It will get fixed.
it will. It is guaranteed will be fixed by accounts payable.
Yeah.
Okay. We answered a lot of questions today. We went through a lot of policy, and of course had Enterprise and National present. Feel free to contact us, travel@uw.edu, or you can call us. Again, slides, video, all the questions will be sent as a follow-up. We will see you guys later for the summer travel information meeting. Thank you so much, and we hope you have a good one.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.